Welcome. I'm Deborah Devine, and this is Deep Rest, a 90-minute restorative healing yoga experience. 80% of everything that's wrong with us is stress-related. So no matter what you're dealing with, this practice will be an excellent way to bring every system in your body back into balance. This healing practice is my most popular class and was developed over years of teaching real people with real problems. In this practice, we lie down in a variety of comfortable positions, and we activate the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the part of the nervous system that turns on the rest, digest, repair, and rejuvenate capabilities. We're going to be moving the spine in all directions, and we'll be doing the practice lying down. We're going to need some bolsters, some blankets, but you can use towels and things like that at home, pillows, whatever's handy. If you have a belt or a tie, that would also be very useful. Cautions. Breathe through your nose at all times. Unless you have trouble, then you can breathe through your mouth. Of course, please see your healthcare practitioner and listen carefully to their advice. If they think it's okay for you to move forward with this kind of a yoga practice, wonderful. But please check in with yourself. I encourage you to engage a lot of body awareness when we're doing practice. And if there's anything that's causing pain, the kind of pain where you would see your jaws clenching or feel your eyes squeezing, then we just stop. We do less. We do something different. It's all right to be in that place between comfort and discomfort and work that boundary with the breath. But when we get into the pain zone, we're not going to experience the benefits of the practice. If there are certain poses that you simply don't enjoy, you can feel free to modify the pose or just leave that pose out. This simple and gentle practice is wonderful for all ages, all fitness levels, and all abilities, and I know you will enjoy this time. I encourage you to do the whole practice at least once a week, but if you need deep healing, do this practice daily. You'll notice the benefits of the practice after the first session. Then you'll really look forward to coming to the mat. After a while, the benefits multiply and accumulate. I encourage you to make this time a sacred practice in your self-care regimen. Let's begin. We begin the practice with legs up the wall, or waterfall pose. You can enjoy this pose with legs resting on the wall, with the hips resting on the ground, or with hips elevated. There are so many benefits of Viparita Karani. It's a very versatile pose. It's very refreshing and energizing when you feel tired and you need a second wind. But when you feel agitated and restless, it has a tranquilizing effect, so you can rest more easily and deeply. Yoga tools that could be helpful in Viparita Karani include something soft for the back of the neck and the head, like a folded towel, and a bolster or a folded blanket to rest the pelvis and the low back. And a tie or yoga belt can also be helpful. Let's begin. Come onto the floor with your buttocks close to the wall, and use your upper body strength to come down onto your elbow and forearm and brace yourself with the opposite hand. Then lower down onto the shoulder, roll onto your back, and swing the hips and shoulders up so the legs follow and rest on the wall. You may want to try elevating the pelvis by sliding a bolster or blanket under the back of the hips, supporting the natural curve of the low back. This action of taking the hips higher than the waist can create an ease of flow of lymph from the lower body to the upper body. See how you feel and make any adjustments you need. Rest here for a few breaths and just watch how your body is responding to being upside down. Rest your arms out in a T or up and over behind the head, palms facing the sky, or invite your hands to rest on your belly. Give yourself a few moments to experience the changes in the breath, to get comfortable, and prepare to experience the waterfall effects of this wonderful pose. We circle the feet, the ankles, spreading the toes and releasing the soles of the feet. We slow down the breath and we slow down the movement of the feet. We go around a few times one way and a few times the opposite way. We shake the feet and legs, and we sense a subtle wave of energy moving down the legs toward the low belly. There is a release of old fluids that have been trapped here for some time. We slow the breath down a bit, and we just complete the out-breath. Maybe you're feeling or hearing a snap, crackle, pop sensation, and just think of this as a symphony of freedom for your feet after being held captive in shoes all day. We point the toes and then point the heels, then the toes, then the heels. Slow things down and use the breath to guide the movements. We're noticing all the layers of tension that live on the back plane of the body. This movement of the feet is also releasing tension carried in the connective tissue of the back and the neck. The joints in between all of the bones of the feet and the ankles are releasing synovial fluid, improving mobility, allowing the bones to release their grip on each other. We take the soles of the feet together and let the knees come out to the sides. We rock the pelvis from left to right and let go of the gripping of the upper legs in the hip sockets. We can also butterfly the legs. We rock, butterfly the legs to help move the fluid from the lymph nodes and the blood vessels around the knees and the inner legs and the inguinal area of the lower belly. This is helping to move old fluid out of the legs and belly toward the upper part of the chest. We're slowing down the breath, and we're letting the out-breath be complete. And perhaps there's a brief pause at the end of the out-breath. We exhale from the lower belly, the middle of the abdomen, and then from the upper part of the body. We let the legs come long again, and we shake them, encouraging more energy to come down, engaging the idea of apana, this downward flowing energetic wind written about thousands of years ago. Gravity is an experience of the power of apana. We take a belt and tie and arrange it around the upper part of the legs just above the knee. Secure it so that the legs are aligned as best we can, the feet and the knees and the hip points. And we create an inward rotation of each upper leg bone. And we drop the sit bones down toward the floor to allow the heads of the femurs to rest down deeper in the hip sockets. Then we let the sit bones feel heavy, and we're totally releasing any gripping or holding of the legs. The belt is holding everything in place safely. Take a few long, slow, smooth, and complete in and out breaths. And keep letting go of the legs. Less and less is done until nothing is left to do. Gravity is doing all of the work, and this frees up a lot of energy. We're also calming the diaphragm, the sheet of muscle that lies between the belly organs and the heart and lungs. It moves up and down, bringing air in and out of our bodies about 20,000 times a day. Now being upside down, and with the pressure of the belly organs bearing down in the opposite way, we can observe the way our belly and our breath are working. We can see things from a different vantage point. We are completely shifting our relationship with gravity, and all the organs of the body are being refreshed. This is a calming and vivifying effect on the body and the mind. Allow the exhalation to empty the lower belly first. Then the midsection. Then the upper chest, and feel how wonderful the in-breath is that comes next. Take 3 rounds of breath this way, releasing the jaws and releasing the eyebrows. Then we come back to natural breath. We let the feet come away from the center line, 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, or 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And we allow things to rest in a comfortable way so that the legs can let go of any gripping. Going upside down once a day is very therapeutic. It's great for mental performance, and it's also very anti-aging. Most importantly, it helps cultivate more vitality. We're turning our perspective on things upside down as well. So when we come back to upside right, we have a new way of seeing things. As we sit in our chairs, there is a blockage of the flow of blood and lymph up and down the legs. And this energy of the lower extremities becomes stagnant, and there can be a sense of dullness. And when we turn upside down, we experience a rush of fresh circulation and a sense of renewal and lightness. We take long, slow, smooth, and complete breaths. We may feel the feet shifting as the muscles and the connective tissue of the inner legs release. The inner legs have a rich network of lymphatic vessels and nodes. rich network of blood vessels and nerves. And this aspect of the waterfall pose helps us to improve circulation of old toxic lymph out and helps the legs feel lighter and more limber. The waterfall pose refreshes the legs and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, as well as the first and second chakras, energetic centers that are associated with survival, stability, passion, creativity, and living in flow. Lymph and blood are the waters of life and health. Take our hands to the outside of our legs, and then we draw them toward the center, shaking the legs out. Then we take the soles of the feet together again and we let the knees move away from the center. Rock the pelvis or butterfly the legs again, or we can just rest. Now we take the hands to the knees and we draw them toward center. We lift the hips to remove the bolster from underneath the pelvis, and then we come down and roll over to the right and rest here for several breaths. You could also roll over to the left if there's any reason you don't want to roll over to the right. You can use a support for your neck or your head, or you could bring the upper part of your arm up to support you as well. We rest here so that we can experience a stabilizing of all of our body fluids. And it's so helpful to use this awareness and intelligence to help us come out of the pose, using our upper body strength. Whenever you're ready, taking the top arm hand, pressing down, and then energizing the opposite arm to help you coming up with the strength of your arms and shoulders. Take a few breaths here and gently reacclimatize to being right side up. And just notice what's changed, how your breath feels, how your mind feels right now. Wonderful. The next movement sequence is done from a constructive rest position. Knees are bent with the soles of the feet making contact with the floor. This is an excellent movement sequence to reduce tension around the spine and the low back, as well as the hips, the legs, and the upper body too. It's wonderful for all the joints, the nerves, the muscles, and the connective tissue. In this movement sequence, we rock the legs and the head in opposite directions in time with the breath. We experience a very gentle wringing out of the spine. If at any time you feel uncomfortable or if you feel pain, just stop, do less, or do something different that feels better. We'll be closing the eyes, so if you're wearing glasses, just remove them and put them in a safe place close by. Let's begin. We take a spot on our back with the knees bent, feet on the ground, and arms away from the side body. The feet are about hip-width apart, perhaps a bit wider. Then we become aware of the breath and where we're breathing. We watch for the next exhalation, and as the exhalation is happening, we begin to rock the knees to the right, letting the feet hinge. And the head and the neck are moving in the opposite direction of the knees. In-breath comes, and then everything comes back to center. Then another out-breath comes, and the knees move out to the left and slowly the head moves to the right. We synchronize the movements and the breath, and we slow things down. We notice the end of the out-breath, and we enjoy a natural pause there just for a moment, enjoying that sense of completion. And then the in-breath comes, and we feel how everything expands so beautifully, and things slow down a bit more. When we pause at the end of the out-breath, we're engaging Kumbhaka, this retention of the exhalation, and we just enjoy that pause without any striving to make it last longer. We just enjoy this coming in for a soft landing at the end of the out-breath. We notice how keen the in-breath is to come in, but it doesn't really agitate or disturb the nervous system in any way. It's very subtle and very gentle. Anytime the mind invites us away by regaling us with stories about the past or lists or plans or worries about the future, we just come back to the breath. No judgment or criticism, because this just creates more thoughts. There is a wonderful massaging and ironing out of tension on the back of the pelvis. We're slowing down the movements here. We're noticing this wonderful massage of the back of the head as well, the lunar plexus. This is where all of the upper back muscles and neck muscles come together and attach to the skull. Every breath cycle is releasing another layer of tension in the whole upper body. We're also resetting all of the physical connections between the legs and the hips and the spine. We notice that the breaths are becoming longer and slower and smoother and more complete. The ironing out of the back of the hips is helping to release tension at the bottom of the spinal cord, bottom of the sacrum, our sacred bone that fits in just so into the back of the pelvis, right below the waist. There's so much energy here, so many nerves, muscles and connective tissues. There are so many blood vessels, and everything here is being flushed out and refreshed. We're slowing down the breaths and slowing down the movements. There is a wonderful massage and ironing out of the back of the head and the neck. All of the muscles and connective tissue here has been working so hard to keep the head in place, and now this whole area is beginning to let go. We feel this wonderful letting go of the jaws and this letting go of the eyes and the eyebrows as well. Every breath cycle is allowing another layer of tension to release, and our exhalations are helping to move that old energy down, out of the body. If you feel a sigh or a yawn or a deeper breath come over you, that is great news. You can consider it a sign of success that the diaphragm is starting to let go and things are coming into balance. Give yourself permission to yawn as often as you need to. We're also releasing tension on the front spine. The psoas is a muscle that connects the front of the spine to the inside of the pelvis, behind all the belly organs, and then the psoas continues down into the inner part of the upper leg bones. This is a muscle that tenses when our fight-flight responses are activated, the sympathetic aspect of the nervous system. We are inadvertently shortening this muscle with our sitting patterns as well. And the supine rocking movement is wonderful for releasing long-held tension, gripping, and holding here. We're turning on the parasympathetic nervous system, and we're moving fresh blood, fresh prana, and life force in as we move old lymph and old toxins out. The breathing muscles relax, and our breath becomes deeper, easier, and more satisfying. This helps digestion, immune function, and mental clarity. We take the feet heel toe back to the midline, and we take the right foot up and over the left knee, and we circle the foot. And we lift the hands to the ceiling, spreading the fingers wide and circling the wrists, going a few times in one direction and a few times in the opposite direction. Then we shake the hands out, and we let the arms rest down on the ground in a comfortable place. We begin to rock. Knees moving in one direction and the head moving in the opposite direction. Letting go of the jaws, letting go of the eyes and the eyebrows. Slowing down the breath and slowing down the movements. We keep the brain quiet by continuing to bring awareness to where we are sensing the movement of the body in relationship to the earth, and also sensing how the breath is moving inside the body. We complete the out-breath, and we feel the belly come to the front spine, massaging all of the belly organs. And we enjoy this very brief pause at the end of the out-breath, this quiet place of stillness. It's as if we dip our toe into this pool of peace. We enjoy our time here, but we don't retain the out-breath to the point of disturbing the nervous system. There's just a very comfortable pause, and then the in-breath rushes in, and it feels so nourishing. Every breath cycle is dissipating another layer of tension, another layer of holding, of gripping. That energy is moving down in alignment with gravity, moving down with the concept of apana, this downward flowing energy associated with exhalations. Things begin to soften, and the movements become easier and easier. We're also giving the low back a wonderful wringing out as well. The connections between the ribs and the spine and the pelvis are loosening up and releasing their energetic charge. And we're directing that energy downward toward the ground. The ribs and the whole abdomen begin to soften, and the breath becomes a little bit deeper, and the pauses just a little longer. Long, slow, smooth in-breaths, and long, slow, smooth, and complete out-breaths. Synchronizing the movements and slowing everything down. Then we come back to center. The feet come back heel toe toward the midline, and then we take the left foot over, resting on the right knee. And we circle the foot. We spread the toes, and we take the hands up to the sky, making fists. And we circle the fists and the wrists, and we circle the ankle, feeling the tension in new places that we're discovering in the forearms, in the nooks and the crannies between the two bones of the forearms. And then we just shake the hands, feeling tension coming out like water droplets. And then we let the arms come down to a comfortable place. And we begin to rock. Knees moving in one direction, head moving in the opposite direction. And everything is moving slowly here. The breath, the movements. We move the bottom jaw from side to side or in slow circles so that the temporomandibular joint area is also releasing. Noticing how areas are being ironed out, massaged out around the back of the hips, the low back. Noticing how the left sit bone can come down a little bit more after several breath cycles. Noticing how wonderful it feels to engage the muscles of the glutes while ironing out long-held tension. Noticing this wonderful release of the sacrum and the pelvis, the sacred bone at the bottom of the spine that fits into the pelvis and is connected to the outside of the upper leg bone by the piriformis muscle. Sometimes this muscle tugs on the sacrum and pulls it out of alignment because it's too tight. And this gentle rocking movement sequence is wonderful to help release tension here that builds up. Then we come back to center. And we unravel the legs. We take the feet wider apart and we rock the knees in one direction and the head in the opposite direction, just noticing how things feel different, comparing the left side to the right side, comparing the breath, comparing everything now to how things were earlier. When the next exhalation comes along, we let the knees drop to the right, allowing the feet to hinge where they are. Then we take the hands behind the head and lengthen the back of the neck, turning the head in the opposite direction of the knees and resting the head down very softly. And we take the hands and the arms out to a comfortable position and we rest. We surrender. This is one of the most difficult things to do because there's that tendency to want to control things. So we grip, we hold on, we tense up. Here, we allow gravity to take over by bringing awareness to all of the parts of us that are resisting gravity. And we breathe light and spaciousness into those areas, making it feel more expansive. And then we use the out breath to move that energy down, apana, that downward flowing energetic wind, helping us take that old energy down into the earth to be recycled. As the tissues begin to soften and let go around the back of the left hip, all the way down to the side of the hip and the upper leg, we can sense the surrender of the top knee toward the ground. Then we become active in the pose. We press down into the inner foot and we energize the leg. We energize the glute and we press the glute away from the floor, opening the front of the hip. An option to consider is to take the grounded leg up and over, resting the shins against each other or resting the ankle on the top knee. Using isometric action, legs resisting against each other. This action of the inner rotation of the upper leg lengthens and opens the tissues around the sacrum and the outer hip. Three long, slow, smooth in and out breaths as we energize and hug all the muscles to bone here. We have this wonderful, gentle opening and lengthening of the space between the bottom of the ribs and the top of the hips. Knee is moving away too, lengthening the front of the leg and the front of the hip. Then, at the end of the third breath cycle, we let go of the effort and we come back to surrender. Notice the difference between the right and the left, between now and earlier. Then we let the knees come to the left, with the feet hinging. We take the hands behind the head, we lengthen the back of the neck, and we turn the head to the right. The head is then resting gently down and the arms come to a comfortable place. There's a slight inward spiral of the top leg here, and we're releasing tension in the muscles that run from the sacrum across the side of the hip to the upper part of the outer leg joint. First, we completely release any effort here and observe closely. Breathing with awareness and curiosity about where the breath is going, where it's expanding. We notice the opening between the ribs and the hips. Then we become active, and the inner right foot presses into the ground. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, so the power we are using to press down here through the foot is actually coming back up, energizing all of the muscles of the leg. Then the glute energizes and presses away from the ground, lengthening the front hip and the front leg. We take 3 long, slow, smooth, and complete in and out breaths. Moving the hip away from the bottom of the ribs, pausing at the end of the complete out breaths, feeling how delicious the in-breaths are. We can take the variation of lifting the left leg over the right leg, resting the left shin on the outer right leg, energizing the legs so that they are resisting against each other. Then we come back to center. We unravel the legs, take the feet a little bit wider apart on the mat. Rock back and forth, head moving in one direction, knees moving in the opposite direction. And just notice what's shifted and changed. Notice how the breath is different now. Notice how the upper body feels, how the spine feels, how the hips and the legs feel. We can enjoy this for a few breaths. Then roll over to the right and rest here for several breaths. And then using our upper body strength to help us come up, we take the top arm hand, press it down, coming up on the opposite elbow and forearm, pressing our way up and coming up to sitting. Apanasana is a wonderful way to release tension out of the legs, hips, and low back. Experiment with either keeping the knees bent or having the legs come long, and go with the one that feels best for you today. Apanasana is excellent for stimulating Agni, heating up the digestive fires and the fires of our gut instincts. It's a time-honored yogic weight loss secret. We're resting with the knees bent and the soles of the feet making contact with the floor. Next time an exhalation comes along, we take the right knee in toward the belly, hands to knee, pausing for a moment. and then inhaling slowly, and the leg comes back to the floor, resting. Exhaling, we take the left leg in toward the belly, bending the left knee, pausing. Slowly inhaling the left leg back out. Coming back to the right, bending the knee, bringing the thigh closer to the belly as we exhale completely. Inhaling, arms come up and over, and the leg comes back to the floor. Exhaling, the left leg into the belly. We go back and forth between the two sides, helping to stimulate the peristaltic movements of the digestive organs and supporting our digestive health, supporting our immune system, supporting our weight management. We slow down the breath and we slow down the movements. We're encouraging lots of circulation of the blood and the lymph all around the digestive organs, as well as all of the reproductive organs. Also releasing the muscles underneath all of the belly organs, the psoas, and the roots of the diaphragm. Our breath becomes deeper, more smooth, and we experience a sense of well-being. Synovial fluid is also being released in the hip joints, and the movements become easier and easier with every breath cycle. Both the hips and the low back are releasing tension, as well as tension in the knees and the ankles. Wonderful. Rest and take a few natural breaths here. Now we move into Balasana, child's pose. A wonderful, quiet pose that releases the muscles of the back and the shoulders and gently compresses the abdominal organs. Child's pose takes us inward. It relieves anxiety and calms the mind. If you have discomfort in your knees and hips, be kind to yourself and experiment with additional towels, blankets, and bolsters to find out what works best. Child's pose can be a very quiet pose, an introspective pose. We're coming into ourselves, and the pose is releasing tension in the whole back line of the body. And it also refreshes and energizes the hips, the legs, the ankles, and the feet. It's a wonderful calming and grounding pose for anxiety and clearing out restlessness, bringing harmony. What we need for the pose is something soft under the mat for the legs, the knees, and the feet. Something with softness and give. Bolsters stacked up so that you can rest a bit higher can be very helpful. Just be creative with what you have on hand. Stack up a couple of rolled blankets to use as support for the belly. We can also use another blanket or towels for support behind the knee. We take the knees away from the midline and bring the bolster closer in to support the belly. And then we place a towel or a blanket deep in the crease behind the knee. This has the effect of creating more space in the knee joint. And it stimulates the lymphatic fluid out of the nooks and crannies here at the bottom of the hamstrings and the top of the calf. We get long on the in-breath on the front of the spine, and then we exhale so that the sit bones move back as we keep the spine long, falling forward in the gentlest possible way, the heart leading toward the bolster. Move the neck gently. The neck carries so much blood to and from the brain. We want to extend the neck and make it nice and long, and then turn it with awareness and mindfulness. Now we settle in. Child's pose is a wonderful pose to retreat from the world as we rest in this cocoon that we've created. We allow the exhalations to be complete, and we feel the sit bones and the hips move back deeper as the pelvis moves up and over the heads of the upper legs, the femurs. We pause at the end of the out-breath for just a moment and feel that wonderful emptiness and stillness and tranquility. We invite the breath to expand through the side ribs, down into the deepest part of the lungs, around the low back, close to the waist. All of the belly organs are compressed and massaged with every breath cycle. This compression feels very soothing and comforting, and it activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest, digest, repair, and restore aspect of the nervous system. Sit bones move back as we continue to release tension out of the hips and the spine. We begin to think about turning the neck, very gently lifting and turning the head back to center, and then turning it very mindfully to the opposite side and resting the temple down. Give yourself permission to make any changes or modifications to make the pose more comfortable for you. Notice what's different about this side compared to the opposite side. We let go of the jaws and we let go of the eyes. And we rest. Now we get ready to come up slowly and mindfully with awareness, using our upper body strength to help us rise up and feeling this wonderful sense of fresh blood and fresh lymph rushing into the areas that were being wrung out. Take several long, slow, smooth, and complete in and out breaths here. Next, we take a side bend and create spaciousness and length in the side body and the spine. We expand the diaphragm, opening up space between the ribs and the hips. And we use the breath to irrigate the whole torso with prana and oxygen. We take the bolster widthwise on the mat. And then we arrange to come up to the long edge of the bolster with the side of the hip. Using our upper body strength, we drape ourselves over the bolster. The bottom knee is bent, creating a firm foundation. The bottom arm is bent, and the top arm is long. And the top leg is long. The head is moving to where the back plane of the body is so that we can open up a little bit more space in the front of the neck and the throat. Long, slow, smooth, and complete in and out breaths, expanding on the side of the body, creating more space between the bottom of the ribs and the top of the hips. The top leg is extended, engaged in dorsiflexion, heels strong, toes spread wide apart, taking long, slow, smooth, and complete in and out breaths, pausing at the end of the complete out breath. The bottom hand takes the top wrist, and there's a very gentle stretch of that top arm, and there's just a little bit of resistance with that hand being pulled back. Every breath cycle is making more room between the bottom of the ribs and the top of the hips. We feel this expansion of the skin, we feel this expansion of the muscles around the abdomen, and we feel this expansion all around the belly organs and the diaphragm. And we're also lengthening the muscles deep underneath the belly organs, the psoas and the roots of the diaphragm on the front of the low back. The ribs are expanding, and we have a sense that the circumference of the diaphragm is also releasing long-held tension. At the end of the last breath cycle, we can release the effort and striving and just rest supported on the bolster. And notice what's changed and what's feeling different. This is an excellent pose to create length and tone all of the muscles and connective tissue around the organs in the midsection in the core. It flushes the lymphatic system here, this vast network of nodes and vessels that supports the purification of the digestive and reproductive organs. Then we prepare to come up so that we can go over onto the opposite side using our upper body strength. We're pressing the top arm down, coming up on the opposite elbow and forearm and pressing our way up, noticing what's happened. Take a few breaths to see what's changed and observe what's happening in the deeper layers of the tissues and the organs. Then we simply turn our body in the opposite direction. The knees come over. We reposition the bolster against the grounded hip and we drape ourselves across the bolster again. Bottom knee is bent. Top leg is long. We energize the top leg, engaging dorsiflexion, the heel strong, toes spread wide apart. Bottom arm is bent, holding on to the top wrist, and the top arm is long. The top arm is reaching out of the shoulder socket, pulling the ribs out and up ever so slightly. And there's resistance against each other, opening up the armpit. 5 long, slow, smooth, and complete breaths here. Feeling the belly come to the front spine at the end of the complete out breath, and perhaps pausing for just a moment, and then experiencing how delicious the in-breath becomes. Feeling the discs in the low back puff up like marshmallows. Bottom of the ribs are moving away from the top of the hips. This is a wonderful pose for all of the respiratory and digestive systems, as well as the pelvic organs. Digestive and reproductive functioning is optimized with all of this fresh prana, fresh life force, and oxygen. The immune system is located primarily in the guts, and we're creating a huge immune boost as we open and expand here. Then we release the effort and the striving in the pose, and we just rest here passively, enjoying the wonderful effects of the bolster supporting us in this way. Then we come back. The top knee bends, arm comes back, and we're using the upper body strength to help us come up. Notice what's changed as we take a few longer, slower, smoother, and more complete breath cycles. Noticing the changes in the diaphragm and around the midsection, and noticing the changes in the quality of the breath. Now we move awareness deeper into the belly. We're going deeper into the tissues of the abdomen, and we're wringing things out. We're wringing out the nerves, we're wringing out the spine, we're wringing out all of the tissues of the back. We're also working with the element of fire in the third chakra, the Manipura chakra, the city of shining jewels and fiery gems, otherwise known as the solar plexus. Let's prepare to move into a supported twist. We use a bolster or a rolled up blanket or towel and position it lengthwise on the mat. We take the short edge of the bolster close to the right hip, and we let the right hand rest on the mat to the right hand side of the bolster. The knees can be close together or they can be wider apart, and we can change position at any time to make it more comfortable. We get long on the front of the spine on the in-breath, and as we exhale, we turn on the axis of the spine to face toward the bolster. Then we take another long, slow, smooth, and complete in-breath as we continue to lengthen through the front spine. And then we exhale as we descend, keeping that extension of the spine as we come down and support the torso on the bolster. The head can be facing toward or away from the knees, whichever is most comfortable today. We take the time we need to set up the right circumstances so that we can surrender completely in the pose. And then we rest. At first, we notice the breath is becoming more shallow because all of the belly organs are compressed and the diaphragm is trying to adapt to the architecture of the pose. When this happens, we begin to recognize each breath as a precious gift. After a few breath cycles, things become easier. This is a wonderful pose to wring out tension out of the low back, the middle back, and the upper back. It's also wonderful for wringing out tension out of the belly. We let the breath become longer, slower, smoother, and more complete. Every breath cycle becomes easier and easier as we surrender into this sacred spiral form of the pose. If at any time you feel uncomfortable, or even if you feel the need to come out of the pose, feel free to make any adjustments you need. On the right side of the torso, we have the ascending colon, the liver, and the gallbladder. And on the left side of the torso, we have the descending colon, and the spleen, and the stomach. And through the upper middle abdomen, the pancreas, the small intestines in the middle of the belly. And surrounding and layered in between all of these organs is a network rich with lymphatic vessels. These are the organs of digestion and assimilation of nutrients. And they also help move old matter, old waste products that's no longer serving our physical body. All of the belly organs are being compressed, wrung out, and refreshed with every breath cycle. We let the out-breath be complete, enjoying the process of emptying, emptying, emptying. The belly is also known as the second brain. We have millions and millions of neurons, brain cells here. This is where we find our gut instincts, our intuition. We slow down the breath and watch with curiosity. We hold a lot of emotional tension in the belly, and thoughts might be coming up. This is completely natural. When we find that thoughts are coming up, we just notice them without judgment or criticism, and we come back to the breath. Even if the mind is very busy with thoughts, there's no judgment or criticism, because that just generates more thoughts. We notice what's coming up, and then we just come back to the breath over and over again. And that's why we call it a practice. It's completely natural to sense the body releasing tension and needing to adjust any aspect of the pose in order to feel more comfortable. And then we bring our awareness back to the surface. We take our hands underneath the shoulders, using our upper body strength, pressing into the floor as we rise up and unravel, feeling this wonderful rush of fresh blood, fresh lymph, fresh prana coming in and circulating around all of the belly organs. We take some time to allow things to settle into being. And then we prepare to switch over to the opposite side. And we just swing the knees over. Then the left hand comes out to the left, and the right hand comes over to the right of the bolster. Lengthening through the front spine on the in-breath, and then exhaling and turning on the axis of the spine on the out-breath, facing the bolster. Another long, slow, smooth in-breath, and then we descend down on the out-breath, maintaining the length of the spine and resting the temple on the bolster in a comfortable way. Noticing how the belly organs and the diaphragm are working together to maintain the volume of breath coming in. After several breath cycles, things feel much more easeful. And then we can slow the breath down ever so slightly, letting the out-breath be complete, pausing at the end of the out-breath and enjoying that stillness and tranquility. The in-breath comes and we feel this wonderful aliveness expanding through the back ribs close to the waist. We feel the breath circulating around the kidneys in the low back, and the adrenal glands are soothed. In this twist, we are working with the energy of the third chakra, power of the solar plexus, the Manipura chakra, a Sanskrit concept of the energy of an entire city of shining jewels and fiery gems. This energy is the energy associated with heat, with light. It's associated with digestion and transformation, as well as personal power and will. Sometimes the fires burn too brightly, and we feel hot emotions here: upset, anger, hurt. These are natural emotions, and we allow them to come to the surface to be ventilated. We use the out-breath to release the energy of those emotions and move that energy downward into the ground, engaging apana, this downward flowing energetic wind associated with gravity. We let the out-breath be complete. We feel the belly come to the front spine, and that wonderful pause at the end of the out-breath becomes our healing refuge. We enjoy that sense of emptiness and stillness and quietude, and then the in-breath comes and refreshes us and fills us with life force. Then we come back to the surface, engaging a little bit of movement into the fingers and the toes, and then we support our hands underneath our shoulders and move up using the upper body strength, unraveling ourselves and feeling this fresh blood, fresh lymph, and fresh prana coming in. Now we open the front of the body with a supported back bend. Supported back bends are a wonderful way to open the heart, make more room for the lungs to bring in prana and oxygen. and it creates a wonderful expansion in all of the belly organs. The whole front body feels wonderful after wringing everything out in the twist. We enter the back bend slowly, with a lot of awareness, using the strength of our arms and our whole upper body. It's important to experiment to find out what the best height is for you, because you may need a different height on any given day. Be gentle and stay out of the pain zone. For this back bend, we can use the bolster or a rolled up towel or folded blanket, and we position it lengthwise on the mat. And we sit on the bolster in such a way that when we come down, our head and the top of the shoulders will be resting on the ground, and the short edge of our support will be resting at the bottom of the shoulder blades underneath the heart. For women, we see this as the bra line. We keep knees bent, and we use the arms and hands to support us as we come back, protecting the low back. We rest the top of the shoulder shelf on the ground and lengthen the back of the neck. The chin nestles in a little bit closer to the jugular notch between the two collarbones. We keep the knees bent, and we take the arms up and over, resting on the ground, over and above behind the head, or out in a T. You could also be resting your hands on the belly. Allow this wonderful expansion of the front body and feel the opening of the belly, ribs, the lungs, and the heart. We feel this wonderful prana and life force filling us and penetrating every cell of the body. This gentle pressure at the base of the throat clears out tension out of the neck and out of the thyroid and the parathyroid glands. This compression helps balance our metabolism and clear out energy blockages in the throat, our communication center. The energy of the fifth chakra here, the Vishuddha, purity, governs not only the sense of hearing, but also what is not being heard. Our sense of understanding the subtleties of what's being said, of being able to read between the lines. And also, of course, speaking our truth. We let go of the eyes, we let go of the eyelids, we let go of the eyebrows, we let go of the forehead. Notice if any thoughts are coming up, and then we just come back to the breath without any criticism or any judgment. We just come back. We notice where the breath is breathing into the body, what's expanding, what's contracting. We look and see where there's more room now compared to earlier. We feel the clamshell of the ribs opening, revealing the pearl of the heart. Now we bring awareness back to the surface, keeping the knees bent. We roll over to the right or we roll over to the left. And then taking the top arm hand, pressing it down, coming up on the opposite elbow and forearm and pressing our way up to seated, taking several breaths here. Allow yourself the time you need to integrate this new feeling of openness in the front line of the body, an expansion of the heart center. Take a few more breath cycles and notice how things have changed. This is the most important pose of all. Savasana. The pose of tranquility. We rest quietly here, not sleeping, but in that state between sleepfulness and wakefulness. There is a wonderful sense of peace and repose that comes over us as we completely surrender to our supports and allow gravity to take over. In these moments of stillness and peace, that the parasympathetic nervous system goes to work to help bring us back into balance. We balance our nervous system, we balance our endocrine and hormonal system, we balance the immune system and the respiratory system. Our thinking becomes balanced, and we bring that balance to our actions, and we have more balance in our life. There are several ways to take Savasana. We can simply lie down on the floor if that feels good. Or we can use our yoga tools to support us in even more creative ways. We're going to need some bolsters, some blankets, but you can use towels and things like that at home, pillows, whatever's handy. Here, using bolsters or rolled up blankets to support the whole length of the back, propping us up to about a 30-degree angle. Savasana. It's in these quiet moments when the breath is still and the mind is still The body becomes still. Everything is quiet, and deep healing occurs. Support the arms and the head. And we support the knees to help release the low back. We can support the low back by bringing the short edge of the bolster to make contact with the back of the pelvis. Keeping your knees bent to support you, come down using your upper body strength and fall gently back onto the bolster. You can scooch the hips away from the short edge of the bolster to create more room in the low back. And feel the support for the whole spine and see if this feels comfortable. We're creating a very gentle back bend, which opens the heart. Open the belly, allowing the breath to move the abdominal wall without restrictions. Let the clamshell of the ribs fall open, revealing the pearl of the heart. Take a long, slow, smooth in-breath into the feet and the legs. Breathing in light and spaciousness. Exhaling tension. Exhaling holding. Take a long, slow, smooth in-breath into the hips and into the back. All of the muscles, the connective tissue, the nerves. Breathing in light and spaciousness. Exhaling tension. Exhaling holding. Long, slow, smooth in-breath into the belly. The organs of elimination and release, of reproduction and creativity, of digestion and transformation. Breathing in light and spaciousness. Exhaling tension. Exhaling holding. Long, slow, smooth in-breath into the heart, the lungs, the arms, the hands, the fingers. Breathing in light and spaciousness. Exhaling tension. Exhaling holding. Long, slow, smooth in-breath into the neck, the jaws, into the cheeks, the ears, the temples. Breathing in light and spaciousness. Exhaling tension. Exhaling holding. Letting the bottom jaw come away from the top jaw. Letting the tongue come away from the roof of the mouth, settling at the bottom. Long, slow, smooth in-breath into the eyes, filling up the eye sockets with a sea of oxygen, an ocean of prana, life force, vitality, feeling the eyes float joyfully on this sea, drinking in all of the oxygen. Exhaling tension, exhaling holding. Feeling the eyes drop to the back of the eye sockets, resting quietly behind the closed eyelids. Long, slow, smooth in-breath into the eyebrows, the forehead, the scalp. Breathing in light and spaciousness. Exhaling the left eyebrow to the left and the right eyebrow to the right. Exhaling the forehead back to the crown. Exhaling the scalp toward the floor. Long, slow, smooth in-breath into the brain. Breathing in light and spaciousness. Exhaling tension. Exhaling holding. Exhaling old ideas, old thoughts. Feeling the front brain drop toward the back brain, leaving a little bit of room behind the forehead. Long, slow, smooth in-breath fills the entire body with light and spaciousness. Exhaling the last remnants of tension and the last remnants of holding. Surrendering completely, not in defeat, but like a baby in its mother's arms, and resting deeply in peace.